Hello and welcome everyone. I'm Gustavo Tolosa, your host for this online book club in which we're reading The Cheese Trap by Dr. Neal Barnard. And welcome. This is session number 4. And I believe that this is a very, very interesting session because we're going to be reading chapter 4. And chapter number 4 is about hormones for women and for men. And so this is a very important topic, and I hope that you had the chance to read chapter 4, but if you didn't, it's okay. Go ahead and stay and listen and learn and ask questions. Let's see. While we wait for a few more people to come in, I'll tell you what I've been doing. Yesterday I spent 10 hours with my vegan friend Anna cooking the 3 recipes that we will include in our episode 3 of The Pianist and the Chef. That's going to be my last episode for 2020. And then I'll restart back in 2021, hopefully. And I can tell you that this is going to be a mega episode with 3 recipes that they're just going to blow you away. One of them being a stew. There is nothing like it in the US. I've never tasted anything like that. And it's perfect for fall. It just has all the most beautiful red and orange and yellow colors. It's like all the leaves in the Northeast turn in all those colors and all those spices and all the starch. Oh my goodness. That is delicious. And we also made the Argentine empanadas, but of course the filling is not with meat, it's with a combination of veggies and spices. And what is very interesting is that instead of using a dough made out of flour, we used a dough made out of mashed potatoes with one more ingredient and with some spices too. And then finally, the pumpkin cookies with frosting are delicious. So I hope that you will join us. It's the last episode. I think that you will find it well worth it. I had a lot of fun. I think you're going to have fun meeting she's a young, lovely young lady here in Argentina, where I'm at. In this little mountain village. And anyway, it was wonderful. I have a story to tell you later on at the end. Something that, sometimes you have a day in your life that it's like you have all of a sudden you see something significant. And today was one of those days. I think I will remember it forever, or for at least for a very long time. But let's jump in our book. And this chapter number 4 of The Cheese Trap is one of the persons featured here. You met her 2 weeks ago. Is Katherine Lawrence. She is the main story of this chapter. So you already had the privilege, to meet her. And she's a lovely, lovely young lady. And maybe you read her story here. If not, you can go to session 2 of this in my YouTube channel and watch it. Also, I interviewed her one time. So there is an interview with her in my YouTube channel that is called Who is Katherine Lawrence? And I will include that link in the description of this video. And then those of you who signed up for this webinar, you'll get a an email with a replay, and I will include the link there too. I will also include a link in the description and the email of a very interesting interview that I did with Dr. McDougall and Dr. Barnard, and I think you will enjoy that. So you'll have those two little gifts when you receive the email, or you will see it here later on. If you're watching this on YouTube, you'll see it there. If you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, please do. It helps me to continue to do free webinars and free things, services like this. So this chapter, I think, is crucial. So you all met Katherine. She is an Air Force aerospace engineer, someone who is highly intelligent. She designed missiles and military bases, and she was one of the first to go into Iraq in 2003. And when you think that someone like that left all that to give her life to helping others through the power of nutrition and food, and now she's become a big part in the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine, working with Dr. Barnard, it makes you think what an impact plant-based nutrition makes on people. Well, you have me. I never thought I would be doing this. I am a concert pianist. Since I was 8 years old, I've been playing the piano. I have a doctorate in piano. I've been teaching in college, universities, in my own studio. I've had the privilege really to travel all over the world and see places, meet people through music, give concerts. And I never thought I would be teaching others about whole food plant-based, but it literally saved my life in 2013. And I started meeting all of the doctors in this, movement, and chefs and nutritionists, and I became friends. And then I interviewed all of them, and I still do, and learn. And it's exciting when you see how lives change dramatically. You can't just stay silent. So Katherine was one of them. And I'm not going to read her whole story because you either read it, or you can go back to session 2 and listen to it, or you can click on the link later on and watch the interview that I did with her. But her story was a very sad one. She was very, very addicted to all of the dairy products and cheese. She would eat, a box of macaroni and cheese every day, besides other things that had cheese. And so at one point, she was diagnosed with, let's see here, she had an endometriosis, and she was feeling miserable, and she was told that she had to have a hysterectomy, and she wanted to have children, and they told her that if she had that, she would never have children. And so at that point in her life, she was scheduled for the surgery. She was in excruciating pain. One of those little angels appears in your life, and somehow the person led her through, led the way and told her about changing nutrition. She saw a nutritionist who told her, thankfully, because not everybody will say this, that she had to stop consuming dairy products. So she did, at least for a short period of time. So let's see here. I'm on page 56. So at the bottom, it says that during the diet experiment, she missed her favorite foods, especially cheese and everything she had made with it. But very soon she felt remarkably better. Not only did pounds start melting away, but her symptoms faded too. Something was definitely happening. So after 6 weeks, this is 6 weeks, a month and a half, she went back to her doctor for a repeat laparoscopy, and her doctor was, just couldn't, in shock. He was stunned because Catherine's disease had regressed so dramatically, so much so that she did not need hysterectomy after all. So when the doctor told Katherine the news, Katherine broke into tears, and she had hoped that there was some explanation for her improvement other than the diet changes she had made. And but of course, maybe many of you have experienced this. The doctor said, "Oh no, that could not be diet." This was a miracle. So she basically was sent home. It was a miracle, but she knew that it couldn't. It was so closely related to the diet change, and then she became better and better and better, and had 2 children. I think. Well, I know she has 2 children. By the time this book came out, she may actually have 3. I mean, I don't remember now. But anyway, she was able to have children, and it's healthy, very healthy. So that's her story in a nutshell. On page 58, at the bottom, it says understanding hormones. And I don't know if you had seen this before. Let's see. Oh, the chapters. Okay, I'm sorry. One of you are saying that the digital version of the book doesn't match the paper. So I'm in chapter 4. And in chapter 4, I'm in the 4th page of chapter 4. It says understanding hormones, and one of the big titles. I'm right here. So basically, a hormone is a natural chemical that is made in the body, and it controls the functions of cells and organs. A hormone is something very important. It controls the functions of all the cells and organs. So, for example, he gives an example. Insulin is made in your pancreas, and it travels to your muscles and liver to control the blood sugar. And then similarly, on top of your kidneys, you have glands that make adrenaline, and that will speed up your heart rate and widen your pupils and raise your blood sugar and just get you ready to flee from danger or to fight. So that if there's imminent danger, you're not going to stand there and be killed. That's one of the hormones. So these hormones are little messengers. They take messages, and they tell all the cells and all the organs what to do. So imagine this, all these different kinds of hormones as these little messengers that travel everywhere. You do this and you do that. I guess we could say they're bossy. I don't know. I think I'm a little bit bossy, but I kind of like to tell people what to do. I have to watch out sometimes, but I'm used to that because I've been a teacher for almost all my life. So I'm used to teaching and telling students what to do and how to do it, but not in a mean, ugly way. So I was just joking. Okay. So what are the female sex hormones, the estrogens? And they're produced in a woman's body, and they're responsible for breast development and many of the changes that occur in the monthly cycle. So small amounts of estrogens in the bloodstream, they're normal, no problem. But food choices can influence that amount, and estrogens in your body, if they're in high, too much, if they're higher in number in the bloodstream, they can really spell danger. And it has been shown that when hormones are used as medications, you have to be careful. Okay, so there was a study called the Women's Health Initiative, and women who were given hormonal replacement therapy were more likely to develop breast cancer compared with women not taking hormones, about 20% more. So starting in 1956, estrogens were used to slow the growth of adolescent girls who appeared to be growing too quickly. And in those years, we're talking 1950s, the idea was that a girl might grow too tall and not attract a husband, and not be able to be a flight attendant. So injections of high-dose estrogens halted their growth, but they also caused serious side effects like early puberty, weight gain, infertility, blood clots, liver problems, and hormone-related cancers. So these hormones are naturally made by the body, and they're supposed to be there in a certain amount, but if they're added, whether they're injected or whether they're ingested with food, and the level goes too high, they can really spell trouble. And that goes also to say about men as well. In the same way that estrogens cause fat to deposit in the breast of an adolescent girl, the same process can begin in a man who has too much estrogen in his blood. And of course, without making fun of any men, you can see, like Dr. Neal Barnard says here, you can see that in almost any beach in America. And I can see it. I've traveled quite a bit, and in the countries where there's more consumption of dairies, you do see that men tend to have these, breasts. So the bottom line is that nature builds hormones into our bodies in tiny amounts for, very specific functions. Small increases can cause serious problems, and big increases can literally spell disaster. So on page 60, I know that the other version that is online doesn't match, but the next title says hormones in dairy products. And so dairy products affect hormone functions in many ways, directly and indirectly. So let's start with estrogens. Estrogens are in milk. This is so basic, but people don't think about this. And I want all of us to realize and think about this, that that estrogens are in milk when it comes from the cow, and when you pour it in your cereal, and these hormones that are from a pregnant cow, we need to understand this, that for a woman, to make milk, the woman has to be pregnant, and the cow has to be pregnant to produce milk, and then it continues to produce it later on. For a few more months, but with some of these treatments, they're elongating the time that a cow produces milk. And of course, they're not advertisers of milk. They're not, they don't have to put that in the package. The Food and Drug Administration doesn't require dairies to report that their products have hormones or how much. So where do these hormones come from? Well, like Dr. Barnard says, it's very obvious. Most cows do not produce milk any more than most women do. They make milk only if they have been pregnant. So farmers impregnate their cows every year. Surprising as it sounds, much of the milk that goes into the dairy products you buy, perhaps most of it, comes from pregnant cows. So when you drink a glass of milk, have a bowl of ice cream, or chew a bit of cheese, you're getting traces of hormones that surge during pregnancy. So they have studied this, and this is what happens. Over the course of pregnancy, the amount of estradiol in milk jumped 17-fold, and estrone rose 45-fold. The difference is so big that a laboratory could easily tell you if a pail of milk came from a cow late in pregnancy. Dairies and cheesemakers do nothing to remove these hormones. They are passed along to you in milk and other dairy products. So those whose diets include the most dairy products have usually a 15% more estradiol circulating in their bloodstreams compared with women consuming the least dairy products. There was a research done by Kaiser Permanente in Oakland, California, where they examined the diets of almost 2,000 women, and all of them who had been diagnosed with early stage invasive breast cancer. So over the next 12 years, those who averaged just 1/2 to 1 serving of high-fat dairy products on a daily basis were 20% more likely to die of breast cancer compared to with those having little or no high-fat dairy products. And for women who consume slightly more, at least a full serving of fatty dairy products on a daily basis, then the percentage went to 49, so almost half of having breast cancer. Then researchers at the University of Rochester, my alma mater, that's where I received my doctorate in music, from the University of Rochester, looked at the effects of men on men. They tracked dairy intake in 189 male college students and then checked sperm samples on each of them. And of course, the same thing. Those who had more dairy, the men who had the most cheese, for example, had a 28% lower sperm concentration compared with men having less than about half a serving per day. So a lot of it affects the body in many ways. On page 61, there is a chart, not a chart, in a box. It says bovine growth hormone. And this is something that is banned in Canada and in all of the European Union and in Australia and in New Zealand and in Japan and in Israel. But many U.S. dairy farms still use it. So what is this, in case you don't have the book, the bovine growth hormone? Farmers sometimes inject bovine growth hormone into cattle to boost milk production. So this is a growth hormone that you don't want in your body, but they inject it in cows so that they can boost milk production, also called, oh my goodness, this is a long name. let's just say RBST, okay? It is generally engineered, it's an engineered product launched, it's a genetically engineered product launched by Monsanto in 1994. So the rationale for using it is that a cow's milk production peaks after about 70 days of lactation and then gradually declines, in part due to the fall of the number of milk-producing cells in her udder. Bovine growth hormone keeps more of these milk-producing cells functioning and direct nutrients toward milk production. Okay, so on page 63, it says fiber, fat, fiber, and hormones. Very interesting too. If your diet includes plenty of vegetables, fruits, beans, and whole grains, this way of eating works just fine. You will have the fiber you need to rid yourself of excess hormones. So in case that there are excess hormones in your body, that's one of the benefits of eating a high fiber diet, like what we are recommending. Thank you, Lori, for writing the recombinant bovine somatrophin. You can laugh now after I tried to say that. So, and she says the advertising for many milks nowadays say no added hormones, but that doesn't mean the absence of hormones. It's very tricky. Yes, it is. So we were talking about fiber, getting rid of all excessive hormones. But cheese is not a plant, so cheese doesn't have any fiber. So it has no fiber. And so what Dr. Barnard says is, and that means that if your diet is filled with animal products, your body lacks the fiber you need to eliminate unwanted hormones. Cancer researchers believe that this is partly why people whose diets are based on animal products tend to have higher rates of some cancers, and why fiber reduces cancer risk. Fiber helps keep hormone levels in bounds. Okay, so here comes a very interesting section, because this question comes up all the time, and it is, what about soy? So this is page 65, and you have, what about soy? Some people have ignored the hormones in cow's milk and focus instead on the idea that there might be hormones in milk substitutes, especially soy milk. Here is what they're thinking. Soybeans and many other foods contain natural compounds called isoflavones. Because of their chemical structure vaguely resembles sex hormones, some have called these compounds phytoestrogens, meaning plant estrogens, and have suggested that soy products might cause breast cancer or make breast cancer progress. It turns out that the opposite is true. Rather than causing cancer, soy products appear to help prevent it. So here Dr. Barnard lists some researchers in the year 2008 who examined the relationship between soy products and breast cancer, combining the results of 8 prior studies in a careful meta-analysis, and you can see this in the reference in the back of the book for this study. They looked especially at studies on Asians and Asian Americans for whom soy milk and tofu would be familiar foods. It turned out that women consuming the most soy were 29% less likely to develop breast cancer compared with women who neglected soy products. In 2014, so a more recent study, a new meta-analysis was done, this one combining the results of 35 prior studies. And again, soy had a preventive effect, cutting breast cancer risk by 41%. I hope that you will look at those studies because those are meta studies, so they combine large numbers of studies, and they're very serious studies. So researchers have also studied what happens for women who had breast cancer already. Many women who have been treated for breast cancer are counseled by their well-meaning doctors to avoid soy products on the theory that soybeans have estrogens that can make cancer grow. Researchers have carefully examined this question. In 2012, the results from 9,514 breast cancer survivors were reported. And it turned out that for those women consuming the most soy products, cancer was roughly 30% less likely to recur compared with women who consume little or no soy. And there's another reference there. These studies show that rather than encouraging cancer growth, soy milk, tofu, and other soy products actually help prevent cancer. From my standpoint, that is Dr. Barnard, soy products are not essential. And, I agree with that. I've never been fond of soy, so it's not that I think it's bad for me, but I don't like it. So, and I don't think I agree with Dr. Barnard. They're not essential, but they are very handy replacement for milk and for cheese. I don't drink milk, so it doesn't matter. I don't care anymore about cheese, so it doesn't matter, and meat even less. And so I just, like I said, I don't. But for other people, it's important. And if anything, soy products help prevent breast cancer and help women who have been treated for breast cancer to reduce the odds that cancer will come back. So I think this is worth reading again and reading carefully, and then actually going to the reference here in the back of the book and getting a hold of these studies that involve thousands of people and really seriously considering it. So, milk, vitamin D, and cancer. This is another very important topic, and I hope that let's look at a little bit about what's going to skip it, but I think it's very important. Dairy products have also been implicated in cancer for men. Prostate cancer is extremely common, so much so that when I was in medical school, that's Dr. Barnard, I was taught that all men would get prostate cancer if they live long enough. And that was an exaggeration, but you get the idea. And, if you study a world map of prostate cancer, it becomes clear quite quickly that the disease is actually very rare in places like Japan and Thailand and Hong Kong, where dairy products are not traditional foods. Well, at least until recently. But recently, these countries have began adopting a Western diet, and you can see it almost in just a short period of time that now there are more cancers in those parts of the world. But it is common in countries where dairy products are routine parts of the diet, like Switzerland and France, Norway, Sweden, Canada, and the US, among others. The Physicians' Health study included almost 21,000 men, 20,885, all of whom were cancer-free at the beginning of the study. And the researchers took detailed diet records and then followed the men over the next 11 years. So these are studies that, it's not like they study for 3 months or a year. It's 11 years of studies. And yes, those who had at least 2.5 dairy servings per day had a 34% increased risk of developing prostate cancer. Then there was a second study by a Harvard study, and the group was even larger. This one included 47,781 men who came, and the study came to a similar conclusion. Men who had more than 2 milk servings per day were 60% more likely to develop prostate cancer. So why would dairy products be linked to cancer? Why? I think this is the question of the chapter. Why would these products, these dairy products, be linked to cancer? Well, it pays to remember what milk is for. It helps a baby grow. It does that not only by supplying protein, sugar, lactose, and fat, it also stimulates the production of growth-promoting compounds in the baby's body. And here comes the name that you want to remember. This is something that a few years ago started coming up in studies and in lectures and in conferences. I first heard it probably about 4 years ago or so. The IGF-I factor. I don't know if you've heard that. I'm on page 67, and it says insulin-like growth factor. This is not a good thing. Okay, you don't want insulin-like growth factor. So it's a substance in the bloodstream that promotes growth, as its name implies. Okay, so some IGF-1 is produced within a baby's body naturally, and milk stimulates increased IGF production. Some for adults, and then it says, same for adults. Milk drinking boosts IGF levels in the blood. So there was another study at Creighton University, and researcher Robert Heaney asked a group of men and women aged 55 to 85 to drink 3 glasses of milk a day. So their IGF levels rose about 10% on average. And that is worrisome, because test tube studies show that IGF causes cancer cells to grow rapidly. So these are studies they've done in test tubes where they had cancer tissue, and they, like it says here, cancer grew when they came into contact with IGF. They grew rapidly. So, in other words, the evidence suggests that milk and other dairy products stimulate the production of IGF-1 in the bloodstream, and that in turn, IGF promotes the growth of cancer cells. So, it's very interesting to see that, and I see this a comment that says that there is IGF in in nutritional yeast. I also know that there are different kinds of nutritional yeast. I don't use nutritional yeast on a regular basis, but a lot of plant-based chefs and even doctors have recipes that use a little bit of it. So they ask you to not buy the fortified version. There are certain guidelines you can look at it. Again, is it an essential, component in your life? No, it's not. So if you're worried about that, don't use it. Study it more. I know that some nutritionists say don't eat it, and then we have others who say yes. Like many things, like many other things, for some of these things, it's a personal choice. It ends up being a personal choice. So I leave that up to you. Vitamin D and cancer. This is particularly interesting to me because of all the years that I've worked with Dr. McDougall. He is so against prescribing vitamin D to his patients. And so let's just read this. This is the end of the chapter. And vitamin D and cancer. Dairy products may increase cancer risk through a second mechanism, this one relating to vitamin D. Vitamin D is produced by sunlight, so it's called the sunlight vitamin on the skin. It is then activated in the liver and kidneys, and from there, it circulates in the bloodstream. So vitamin D's best known job is to help the body absorb calcium. Yeah, that's what most people, if you ask them, they will relate that. Vitamin D does other things, but it is best known for helping the body absorb calcium. When you are low in calcium, your body activates more vitamin D to help your intestinal tract absorb more calcium from the body, from the foods that you have eaten. When you have lots of calcium on board already, your body slows down its vitamin D activation. And so you absorb less calcium because you already have a lot of calcium. So it makes you think about this recent 2-3 years ago, when the surge of, now everybody's deficient in vitamin D because they have lowered the levels when you go get a lab work. So basically, they have made the levels so high that I think just about everybody is deficient in vitamin D. But I think this is another issue similar to the nutritional yeast. At some point, you're the one who decides what to do. And so read, study. One of the things I gained most from doing a PhD was that, you're drilled and told over and over, don't believe anything, don't accept anything. You've got to study, you got to think for yourself and research. So I pass that on to you. You've got to at some point, you have to make an intelligent decision where you feel comfortable. So read what Dr. McDougall says, not only what he says, but all of the studies that he shows you, and then come up with the decision that where you feel comfortable. So so far so good, it says. But vitamin D has another job too, which is to protect you from cancer, scientists believe. And that's where dairy products work some mischief. If you are tucking into cheese, milk, and other dairy products, you're getting more calcium than your body needs. Yes, because we're made believe that we need unlimited amounts of calcium, just like we are made believe that we need unlimited amounts of protein, and that is not true. So We don't need unlimited amounts. With all the calcium entering your bloodstream, your body slows down and its activation of vitamin D. And with less vitamin D, your cancer risk increases. At least that is one of the key explanations for the link between dairy products and prostate cancer. The role of foods in prostate cancer took on an extra importance in a 2005 study conducted by Dr. Dean Ornish, and also in my YouTube channel, you can see the interview that I did with Dr. McDougall and Dr. Ornish. It was very interesting. And Dr. Ornish had already shown that a plant-based diet as part of a healthy lifestyle could reverse heart disease. And he tested a similar regimen for men with prostate cancer. So Dr. Ornish invited 93 men to join the study. Half of the men began a low-fat vegan diet, along with moderate aerobic exercise and stress management, while the other half followed their usual diets. In the usual diet group, the PSA levels gradually worsened, which is typical in men with prostate cancer. For the average participant, PSA rose 6% in a year's time, but in a vegan group, PSA levels did not rise on average. In fact, they fell 4% over a year's time. And although 6 men in the group that followed their usual diets had to leave the study to have their cancers treated, no one in the vegan group needed treatment during the study period. So a low-fat, high-fiber, dairy-free diet is likely to help tame the hormones driving prostate cancer. So we're at the last 2 pages of this chapter, and it says fighting back against cancer. And I just want to mention that the first sentence here, it says, the power of food can be far greater than you might have imagined. Then, of course, we have Dr. McDougall say, it's the food. And Dr. Ponyman and myself, who started the website Plantemus, we say the secret is in the food. And it is. So the power of food is very large. And then Dr. Barnard says, talks a little bit about a case study, someone called Ruth, who I actually met. And she was part, it says here, the researcher, Dr. John McDougall, explained that he was investigating whether a completely vegan diet could tackle breast cancer and more effectively than chemotherapy or radiation. And so Ruth decided against chemotherapy and radiation and chose a diet change instead. And within 2 months, the cancer began to disappear. Before long, her liver tests returned to normal. She never had chemotherapy or radiation, and her health rebounded. So like Ruth, like Katherine Lawrence, they became eager to share what they had learned. Katherine became a cooking instructor with the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine, and began holding classes for women and men. And I just want to remind you that her website is called Food Saved Me, and we have filmed several classes. Many of those are free. Some of them have a very small fee. So next week, we will have Shada. Shada has been very busy with her regular work, and So today she couldn't be here, but she promised me that next Saturday she's going to jump in and show us a delicious plant-based cheese sauce. And I think that is all that I wanted to share with you. I did want to share a little story with you. This now doesn't have much, doesn't have anything to do with our book club, but I want to share. You know how, for me, the personal interaction is important. So that's why sometimes I play music for you, sometimes I bring a guest, sometimes I tell you my own struggles or stories. But today, I don't know if you've seen the movie Under the Tuscan Sun. It's one of my favorite movies. It's so inspiring. I relate to the main character because she moves to another country. She doesn't know the language, the culture, the food. I mean, nothing. And she just one day decides that she is moving away to a completely new life. And the movie is lovely. If you haven't seen it, please watch it. And in one of the scenes at the end, she goes through such a life journey, and it's so touching. And earlier in the movie, she's talking with this guy that helps her around the house. And you know, when she buys the house, it's an old house that is falling apart, and there was a storm at night, and she's scared. And then the next morning, the guy comes to see if she's okay, and there's a part where she says that she still wants things, and she would like to someday, because she's so lonely, she's so alone. She left family, she left friends, she left everything. She moved away in this little Italian village. And she said, I just wish or want that I want to see people, a lot of people in this house one day. And I want to see a wedding in this house. And I want to see kids in this house. And I just want things, basically. And then at the end of the movie, this same man comes to her and says, did you realize that you got everything you wished for? And she said, what do you mean? Well, he says, do you remember what you said that time? Well, look around, and guess what? She was in a party in her house, and there was a wedding that was in place. And so, you know, that became true. And there was one of her friends went to visit her and had a baby. So there was a newborn, like she said, she wanted children. And then the house was full of people, adults and kids running all over, and there was full life. And she looked radiant, and she said, you're right. I got every wish that I wished that day. And anyways, today I had that experience. You know, it was weird because I was sitting right here in this living room. I am in Argentina now, okay? And I decided to move here, although I go back and forth from here to the States, and I still have most of my life in the United States. But I decided I wanted something like Francis wanted in the movie. And for me, even though I was born here, it was like coming to a foreign country because I've lived most of my life in the US. and I kind of lost touch of my life in Argentina. So it really has been very not much like what she went through. And so, but the reason I'm saying this is because when I looked at this house, and there's a big rounded window right here in front of me, I saw a piano. It was all empty here. And I saw a piano right here where this piano is. And I didn't know how I was going to get a piano. There isn't a piano store here. I'm in the middle of the mountains, way up high, and I have to go very far away to get a piano. I didn't know how or when, and I wanted to do chamber music. I wanted a break from teaching. I wanted to make music because that is life to me. But how could I do chamber music with a flutist or a violinist or a cellist if I don't know it. I didn't know one soul in here. And I wanted music to be heard in this house. And I wanted to have like a little orchestra in my house and play music with them. And today I was sitting here, and right there were 8 musicians. There were violinists and viola and cello. And all of a sudden I got this, I got my wish. I have a piano, and it's a beautiful piano, almost the same as a baby grand, even though it's upright. And I met people. I met this violinist with whom every Tuesday I'm doing the musical Tuesdays, and you can see the music we upload every Tuesday, and planning concerts. And then through him, who has a little orchestra now, we are rehearsing a Bach concerto for piano and orchestra. And today, they get together in different places. And today, because the piano is here, he decided to come and rehearse here. So today I had an orchestra in my house. I mean, how? I don't know. I just get goosebumps. And I want to tell you that, like they say, be careful what you wish for. And I don't want to get religious because I don't want to get into that. Whatever you want to call it, whether it's praying, meditating, energy, whatever it is. I'm not judgmental. I don't want to talk about anything that has to be related with beliefs, but if you want something bad enough, like I wanted health in 2013, and I had seen Dr. McDougall in this movie, and to me, it was an unreachable figure. He was like a semi-god. And then I ended up not only going to the 10-day program, but I ended up working with him for years as the webinar producer with him. And so life is exciting, okay? It's full of good things, okay? We just have to look for them. And sometimes we're just, life and people make us believe that everything is negative and bad. No, there's a lot of good things, and we just have to look for them and appreciate them. And I hope that whatever your wish is, whether it's for health or for love or for friendship or for music or for, work, whatever it is, that it will come true. You just gotta see it. You have to see it and want it bad enough. And it's an adventure. Life keeps surprising me, and I look forward to many years I always say I want to live until I'm 104. I mean, don't ask me why I say 104, but just seems like a good number. I don't know. And I want to do a lot of things. I want to meet a lot of you, and I want to travel. I have talked too much, so I hope that you guys have a wonderful rest of the weekend. I hope you will join me next next Saturday, October 31st or November 3rd, and I'm going to put it here in the let's see, in the episode 3 of the pianist and the chef. There it is. If you want to sign up, and I will see you next Saturday anyway with Shada and chapter 5 of the cheese trap. So let's see what you are all saying. I hope it wasn't boring. I didn't mean to get all mushy or romantic. I don't know. It's just today. It was all of a sudden I had this flash. I was sitting right here and I thought, oh, my goodness, I feel like I am the protagonist of a movie. And it was just, I wanted to share that with you because I consider all of you my friends. I see you every week here, and I appreciate you. Thank you very much, and I'll see you next week. All right. Bye-bye.